Ya.
¿Aló?
Hola, Juan.
¿No es Aldo Ferrini?
Hola, Aldo. Es que creo que todos entramos con el nombre Juan porque entramos
Ah,
con el enlace de Juan. Creo que
eso
aún
parece.
yo te salgo con Juan Antonio, ¿no?
Yo también salgo con Juan Antonio, efectivamente.
Ok.
Sí, sí, sí.
¿Cómo
No,
estás?
bien, bien, por suerte. Voy a ver si puedo cambiarme de nombre, creo que se puede.
Yo también creo que se puede, ya lo estoy haciendo también.
Esto era... Pues ya no sé cuál de los Juanes soy yo. Voy a probar.
Ya, yo ya lo logré.
¿Este?
Volví a ser Andrea.
Muy buenas tardes. Le
Ya.
hablan de soporte de sistemas. Sí, ¿se podrían renombrar, por favor? Sí, creo que le repartieron un link y está con el
Sí.
nombre de Juan Antonio.
Sí,
Se van hacia su nombre, ponen renombrar si tienen habilitada la opción.
ya estoy, ya. Listo.
También ya.
Buenas tardes con todos. Jorge les saluda.
Hola, Jorge.
Hola
Hola,
Andrea,
hola.
¿cómo estás? ¿Qué tal?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Ronaldo. Bien, bien, gracias.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Hola.
Hola.
¿Qué tal?
Hola.
Mucho gusto.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola.
Hola,
Hola.
hola.
¿Cómo estás, Íñigo?
Hola a todos, buenas tardes.
Hola Eduardo, ¿qué
Hola,
tal?
Edward.
Hola, hola, Eduardo.
¿Usted va a estar en la sala?
Hola. Sí, claro. Muy buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? Muchas gracias por acompañarnos este día. Y bueno, disculpen un poco la demora del acceso, pero ya creo que lo tenemos resuelto. Solamente quería referirles un poco la dinámica que les había enviado por correo. Es dentro de las 3 preguntas, tratar de eh, sintetizar nuestra presentación en 5 minutos, de tal manera que todos podamos participar y luego pasaríamos a la premiación. Así que vamos en el orden que estaba establecido. Yo en el PowerPoint que he preparado está el orden de cada uno de ustedes y también la agenda. ¿De acuerdo? ¿Me escuchan todos? ¿Sí?
Sí, muy bien, todo muy bien. Muchas gracias.
Sí, perfecto.
Ya,
Sí, perfecto.
excelente. Excelente. Entonces empezamos.
Veo 2 personas que están en espera todavía.
Entonces, si les parece, yo inicio presentando a Justo y de ahí empezamos, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, ahora empezamos.
De acuerdo.
Okay, good afternoon. We have today our Investment Sustainability Roundtable 2020, where experts on investments and ESG discuss sustainability global issues and award the winners of the ESG Research Challenge. We welcome our experts, and this is the agenda for today. We have the opening words from Justo Balmaceda, Head of Studies at USIL, then an event overview when I'm going to explain you about this roundtable and challenge. Then we have the welcome from international vice presidencies, and then the Investment Sustainability Roundtable 2020 with our experts. Then the 3 financial lab heads, we are going to make a brief summary of the roundtable. Then we are going to award the ESG Research Challenge teams, and at the end, the closing and thanks. So, Justo Balmaceda, Academic Head of Studies of Universidad San Ignacio Loyola, USIL, Peru, is going to give us our welcome.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Dear authorities of USIL, UADE, and UEAN, students, professors, and special guests. It's an honor to inaugurate this great event where we will talk with experts about responsible investment and ESG methodology, environmental, social, and governance. Its impact on financial markets, the resilience of companies before crisis scenarios, and the academic participation in the ESG agenda to generate awareness of sustainability as the exercise of the values and ethics in business. Today, we are joined by the winning teams of the ESG Investment Challenge from the 3 universities in consortium with our Bloomberg laboratories. This initiative arises from the entrepreneurship, creativity, perseverance, and co-creation of students and mentors within the university as a humanistic center that would force the professionals of the 21st century with an authentic purpose of service to society. I declare open this roundtable and award of the winning teams of the ESG Research Challenge. Congratulations to all the participants. Thank you. Juan, your microphone.
Thank you, Justo. Just very briefly about this roundtable. This initiative from students and mentors and heads of laboratories and the directors of vice presidencies, international relations. And it's about a commitment with society in order to generate consciousness about the importance of being sustainable, the importance of being ethical, the importance of being a coherent citizen in the 21st century. So after the roundtable, we have the awards from the winners of the ESG Research Challenge, and it's an opportunity to congratulate them for their efforts and the vision they have about the future. So, and now we are receiving Rocío Valdarrago from USIL, Sara Vera Aguirre from UEAN, and Pablo Iglesias from UADE for a welcome from international vice presidents. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this afternoon. We're very happy to host this event, and we welcome all participants and all the teams that participated, and we're very happy to award recognition for the winning teams this afternoon. My name is Rocío Valdarrago, and I'm Head of International Alliances from Universidad San Ignacio Loyola. And we worked this initiative along with Sara Vera from University EEAN from Colombia and Paula Iglesias from UADE. Now, Sara, thank you.
Thank you, Rocío. Thank you, everyone. we're very pleased to be here today and to be launching this initiative focused on something that is crucial for our universities and is sustainability. And education for sustainability also has an important relation with the global challenges that we have today, and responsible investment and taking advantage of data and informed decisions is something that is not anymore a hypothesis from the future, but it's something that our students are able to do today in this type of real sector challenges. I am very happy to be hosting also this session with our colleagues from UADE and USIL. And I really congratulate our teachers and mentors and students that took part in this challenge and are one great example for the rest of the community on how can we work together in a collaborative network of 3 Latin American universities. Thank you very much. And now, Paula, it's your turn.
Thank you, Zara. Welcome everybody to this session. I'm very happy to share this session with 2 very good partners, USIL from Peru and Universidad EAN from Colombia. Together with UADE, we form a network of international universities of excellence. And this is one of our initiatives. We have been working throughout this year with many initiatives in different areas. And working together with the 3 film labs was one of our first initiatives, and we're very happy to be here today for this talent, and having our students being awarded prizes and recognition for their work is something that is really it's worth the effort and the hard work we have been putting on this network. I want to thank all of the organizers, all of the professors and students for participating in this session and in this challenge. And well, thank you all for your attention.
You're on mute, Juan Antonio.
Find your microphone, please.
Now I'm going to present Investment Sustainability Roundtable 2020. Inigo Bengoechea from CFA Institute, Lisette Guerrero Lara from Bloomberg LP, Jorge Chandía from IFC World Bank, Eduardo Teurtua from Principle of Responsible Investments, Andrea Pradilla from Global Report Initiative, and Aldo Ferrini from Programa de inversión responsable. First, we'll start Inigo from CFA Institute.
Thank you, Juan. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation to the roundtable. So on the topic of proxy statements for Latin American companies, I'm going to start by stating the obvious, and proxy statements remain one of the most important tools issuers have to communicate with investors. And one data point that I can share that may be of interest is that ESG disclosure in this statements has exploded over the last 3 years. So companies continue to expand the ESG section, with the section remaining very dynamic in nature. So what are some of the best practices from leading companies that we could incorporate in Latin America for proxy statements? Well, one of the things that leading companies are doing is featuring these disclosures very prominently. They don't leave them for the end. They don't bury them in the middle. They're featuring early and prominently on their statements. The second idea that we could potentially incorporate is using the statements to tell your strategic ESG story. So, which really helps investors understand where long-term value is going to come from. And in here, companies could be saying, you know, we're committed to ESG. This is our goals. This is how we're making progress towards those goals, and using statistics and telling the story. The third one, which is sort of new, and it's in flux, is that with the scale of the global health crisis, the S in ESG, social, is really standing out now more than ever. And company disclosures are going to continue to evolve in this matter, with a greater emphasis being placed on social commitment. So it's not going to be just a question of how much value you create, but looking at the way in which you create value. Those companies need to have a strong narrative going forward. It's about how you're creating value. Moving on to the question on positive impacts of ESG criteria on profitability, I would say that I'm a big believer that ESG criteria does not compromise returns, rather the opposite. ESG is a long-term game, so patience is key. And what will it take us together? Well, I believe we should be paying attention as to how companies are growing their revenue base from having a strong ESG proposition. So companies that have strong ESG propositions, what are they seeing? They're seeing top line revenue growth by attracting customers with more sustainable products. Look at Tesla. Look at the other best performers in the S&P this year, Zoom, DocuSign, PayPal, the intangible economy. A second aspect is a strong ESG proposition leads to cost reductions. So you're saving on energy, you have less waste, which it translates into cost savings. Thirdly, it's avoiding regulatory costs and fines. You're not getting into trouble because you're environmentally friendly. And also a productivity uplift because you're attracting top talent since you have social credibility. And finally, optimizing the investments because you avoid those investments that have no long-term future, that are not environmentally secure. So that's to the ESG criteria and profitability. And let me end on the how academia can help the ESG agenda. Well, it's clear to me that universities have an important role to play in training or shaping the next generation of professionals. And my recommendation would be that they incorporate the training materials into their courses and also use their convening power, such as they're doing today, to create forums for debate and generation of new ideas. If we look at what's going to take investors to trust the new generation of professionals, well, they're going to need credibility and professionalism. And to have credibility, you need to have degrees and credentials. And universities can partner with institutions such as CFA Institute as we develop credentials in the ESG space. And for professionalism, they need to showcase commitment to the values that the clients hold dear. So that's also something they can learn at university and through the CFA charter and our credentials, because we have a commitment to ethics. So both can be taught, and in partnership with us, I think we have a bright future. Thank you, Juan, and thanks everybody.
Thank you. Now we have the word from Lisette Guerrero Lara from Bloomberg LP.
Thank you, Juan Lilo, and thank you everyone for participating on this initiative. It's an amazing opportunity for us to share a little bit what has been done, and I'm going to share some ideas of what is Bloomberg doing on this space in particular. First of all, I would like to share with you that ESG, as any other good initiative, is facing some challenges. We have seen early this week how Trump actually, let's say, well, dramatically, as always, created some proposals to challenge ESG's investments. It's going to be critical for this November, for the elections in the US, this topic, because actually Joe Biden is actually sending the opposite message as always, and Trump is creating a lot of controversies around it. But it's super interesting how the industry immediately reacted against these proposals. So despite the fact that Trump actually attacked ESG investments, all the industry, I want to show you something super interesting, how the biggest players on the industry, like Fidelity, like BlackRock, actually immediately rejected the Trump initiative, explaining how important, how relevant it is to continue investing on ESG initiatives and being more transparent and reporting. So all this week, we have been discussing everything around ESG, so it's a great topic for us to close the week. Sharing is also something that happened this week was very important. We have to talk about ESG latest initiatives in Latin America. At the end of last week, early this week, Mexico actually published that they were going to issue bonds focused on sustainability. You know, so they sold 750 million euros, which is a sizable deal. It's a relevant deal. But this is not only the most relevant part of it. The most relevant part of it is it was subscribed 6.4 times. So it means that the market was demanding 4.2 billion, while the country was only issuing 750. So it was oversubscribed. The demand exceeded the supply, and this is just to give you an idea why we should keep talking in Latin America about ESG investments and how relevant it is for every single company to start engaging with these initiatives. So, sharing also something with you, in addition of what we are saying, is that something very interesting happened as well early this month, actually last week. Citigroup named the first women ever to lead a Wall Street financial entity like Citigroup. No, this is something that is worth highlighting. The world has becoming more and more aware of the benefits of having a diversified and of course inclusive, becoming more inclusive regarding gender, regarding nationalities, regarding social capabilities, etc. And also, I think it's very, very important to highlight these three facts of the new issues, the politicians talking about ESG, but the world actually working on the right, or taking the right path. No, and to give you some ideas how Bloomberg is focusing on and investing a lot. You can take one of your top companies in Peru, for example, Volcan Minera, and you can actually go into FA and see the ESG FA ratios that we have. You can have a general overview, or you can talk about governance, the executive directors, and the ESG ratios are super important. Talking about ESG ratios, we have a great page that is called ESG on the tickers of companies like Southern Copper, another example, where Bloomberg is actually now doing a scoring about how is the company doing versus itself versus history, and how is the company doing against its peers. I know that the team has done the teams have done a great job presenting and analyzing the scores of a local company versus CEMEX, and I think it's very important that you also understand that we have many more ratios that are becoming more and more relevant. And the Bloomberg actually invested on the ESG teams and ESG scorings. And we have also something that is called Bloomberg ESG dashboard. And this Bloomberg ESG dashboard, I will highlight two things. The first one is about the ESG scores that you can see on the left side. We are actually discussing what are the pillars that these companies are actually driving their strategies now. And we set up different scores, and we start monitoring these scores for every year. And also something that is very, very important, not only, we also address what are the ESG theme scores, like you can see on this chart. There are many resources. It has been an amazing amount from the amount of work from the ESG team to gather all this information and to push the company also to report this information. Last but not least, it's also relevant to talk about the scores that we have now. We have gender and inclusion scores, which in particular talk about female leadership, equal payment, sexual harassment, inclusive factors. So you will be able to understand a little bit more about gender equality and inclusiveness through this themes course that I'm bringing up to you. Also, very, very important that when you go into ESG, we have something that is called Bloomberg ESG, BESG, where you will be able to find all the resources, all the members and weightings that are for our index. We can also talk about, for much more time, we can also talk about everything that we have on Bloomberg ESG that I presented, and as well on BNIF, which is also something quite relevant, one of our new energy finance initiatives. Finally, the ESG indices, I strongly recommend you. We are going to start developing for next year many more indices we're going to start publishing, and these are going to be very important for the investors. And hopefully you also find useful the videos and webinars that we have put on this subject. Finally, one of the last and very important investments that we have been doing on ESG is related to our maps. And you will be able to understand a company and the risk that a company faces for the locations they have, like the one you analyzed during your projects. We talk about CEMEX, and you will be able to understand, like, for example, the topic about California fires and how this environmental risk represents a challenge for where CEMEX have a specific factories or specific selling points. So these are some of the most relevant screens that I think are worth to explore further, and I hope you find them useful over your careers. No, that's it on my side. Thank you, Juan Lilo.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to listen to Jorge Chandilla from IFC World Bank.
Thank you, Juan Antonio. Thank you so much for considering IFC as part of this very, very important activity. There is a well-known concept in corporate governance, which is the famous tone of the top, which means that the transformation of companies must be led from the highest authorities. In this sense, the inclusion of ESG concept and specifically the sustainability aspect of the businesses must be promoted from the shareholders, passing through each of the members of the board of directors, and finally reaching the management for its corresponding execution to make the things happen. IFC, as a development bank, works promoting good corporate governance and environmental and social practice and advice to put in the first place of the board of directors that needs to manage an agenda that's considered the strategy as the center of the discussion in the company. And within this strategy to consider aspects such as the impact of the operation on matters as climate change and its future measurement, with a view to both the majority shareholders, board of directors, workers, suppliers, and all the value chain contributing to excellent results. In the same line, we are concerned that environmental and social factors are connected to the financial and non-financial risks and opportunities faced by the company. As you know very well, regarding social aspects, human capital is cited by investors as an important, very important sustainability issue. And today, more than ever, with the pandemic in our lives, concerns about worker protection practices, both in health and safety, are absolutely fundamental. IFC has developed the concept of governance for ENS, because we understood that until now, the ESG element have been worked at the middle management inside the company as part of the operation, and it's very good as first strong step, but was not enough. We need to talk about ESG at the C level, and the board of directors and understand its transcendence and developed all the decision considering these aspects and its risks and challenges. In our own experience, we built our ESG progression matrix based in our previous corporate governance matrix. In this line, we have continued working on our 5 corporate governance components, but more focused on the E and S issues. For example, regarding a commitment to corporate governance is now obviously commitment to ESG, and to know the work of the leadership and to be focused on the culture to have ESG as part of the current activities in the company. The ESG is now part of the codes, for example, inside the company, and this helps a lot to make change in the enterprise and institution, because again we work in the starting for the top of the company. About, for example, the structure and functioning of the board of directors, we need to have an agenda with the evaluation and to look all the time the E&S main concerns that the company could have or could be in front of. The board members need to understand these E&S risks. It's not you were talking about the diversity in the board, and this is very important. And part of this diversity is to have people to understand these issues and not only the core of the business, because it's absolutely important, but we need to understand the other potential risks in the company. About control environment, or the reports are very important. Here is Andrea, and for example, this change in the companies to make sustainable reports are absolutely important to make change in the companies. Transparency and disclosure is part of this that I said, you know. And finally, one of our last component is the treatment of minority shareholders, and is necessary to add 6 parameter that is a stakeholder engagement. IFC each year issues around 16 billion dollars in bonds, of which around 20% is in green and social bonds. And beyond the numbers, we see changes in the companies like enhanced transparency, integrity, reputation, improve safer working conditions, reduce emissions, enhance natural resources and land use, improve engagement with communities and other key stakeholders, and long-term business growth. That is that real concept of sustainable of the company. Finally, thanks USIL, because I have been followed the amazing work you are doing from your finance and investment lab, led by Juan Antonio Lillo. And I am sure that with activities like this, we could see the changes in the market, because if we start working with professors, with teachers, with entrepreneurs, but if we work with undergraduate students, we will have future entrepreneurs or leaders of institutions who will advocate for environmental, social, and corporate governance concept as the basis of any initiative to develop. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for these inspiring words. And now I'm giving the word to Eduardo Ateurtua from Principles of Responsible Investment.
Juan, thanks for the invitation, and hello everybody. Happy to be here with you today. I just want to mention, you know, I'm hearing everybody talking about ESG and the momentum this topic is taking around the world, but also in the region. And that's what I want to focus in my 5 minutes. I want to mention what we are seeing from PRI and how we are helping to promote responsible investment in the region. So let me start by saying that our initiative, the Principle for Responsible Investment, is a global organization that is looking to promote this topic all around the world, that we have more than 3,000 signatories, so organizations that work with us and promote responsible investment, and that now in Latin America, we have more than 120 investors working with us, including more than 65 of them from Spanish-speaking Latin American countries. So that's good news, mainly because we can say that responsible investment in the region continue to be a new concept, and there is a lot of work to do to close the gap that we have between Latin American investors applying or developing responsible investment strategies, and how more advanced markets are already working on this topic. So, as I mentioned, in the Spanish-speaking Latin American region, we are in the process of, consolidating our presence, and especially focusing 4 markets that are Mexico, Chile, Colombia, and Peru. And in that sense, one of the main challenges we have right now is about educating the market, the new signatories that are joining the initiative, but also potential ones that also want to be part of our initiative. And that's why I've been happy to support Juan Antonio project, on the ESG challenge. I really believe it makes a lot of sense on how we are going to continue promoting this topic for new professionals that are going to join the ranks of signatories or financial institutions in coming years. So if they go out from the university with some initial knowledge about the importance of ESG information, that's going to be really good and really valuable for our signatories. So there is a lot of things to do, but the good news is that we are seeing important advances in the region that we believe are going to help us consolidate responsible investment as an important investment strategy in coming years. And one of the main things that I want to mention is that regulators, especially central banks and supervisory institutions, are actively promoting responsible investment and sustainable finance in the region. That's good news, because at the end, in Latin American countries, a lot of organizations are going to follow this practice when the regulator asks them to do it. Obviously, and we already have, as I mentioned, more than 60 signatories in the region. So there are organizations that are moving forward and not waiting for regulation to ask them to work on this topic. But the good news, again, is that if the regulation goes in this direction, for sure, we're going to see more and more investors applying responsible investment strategies in the regions. And the other thing that I want to also highlight is that right now within the PRI organization in Latin America, we have more than 15 asset owners that already joined PRI, including some of the most important private pension funds in the region. Aldo is here today, and he is the CIO of AFP Integra, one of PRI signatories in Peru. And having those kind of organizations is really, really important, because they are at the top of the chain in the investment market, and they can play an important role promoting responsible investment for managers in the region. So you can see here some of the organizations that we are supporting right now in a Spanish-speaking Latin America. You can find maybe some of the logos of the institutions from Peru that are already signatories. I have to say that we have a lot of work to do in Peru. That's why also these kind of invitations are so important for us. As I mentioned before, we have 4 main markets for Spanish-speaking Latam: Mexico, where we have 21 signatories; Colombia, where we have 17; Chile, where we have 11; and Peru, where we have 4. So again, there is a lot of things, a lot of work to do in Peru, and we are more than happy to, continue working in this market and supporting our signatories and future signatories to implement PRI principles. And I just want to finish mentioning some of the main challenge that we already identified to continue promoting responsible investment in the region. There is topic number 2. I will let Andrea Pradilla, a very good friend of mine, she can tell you more about the lack of ESG data and how we need to fight that and how we need to identify ways to promote better ESG information. But for sure, that's something that we need to continue working. If we want investors in Latam implementing responsible investment strategies, we need better ESG information from the companies that they are investing in. And also, I just want to mention that from the main responsible investment strategies that investors can implement to apply this approach to investment, we are seeing that in the context of Latin America, what we need to promote to our signatories is to invite them to establish ESG integration strategies so that they can incorporate environmental, social, and governance data into their investment process, and with that, make better decisions. And that's important to mention because in the history of responsible investment in developed markets, one of the main strategies to implement a responsible investment approach has been to use filters or to just decide not to invest in some companies that maybe don't have good ESG practices, or just focus the investments in the better performing companies on the ESG side. And again, I can say from experience, I'm more than 2 years into this job of working as director of PRI for Latam ex-Brazil, that exclusion strategies in Latin America doesn't work. That's not the way that we are going to consolidate responsible investment in Latam. And that's why we are going to continue working very closely with our signatories to promote ESG integration strategies that we believe makes more sense for the Latin American market and obviously for our signatories. So that's what I want to mention today in these 5 minutes, just to say that responsible investment is growing in Latin America, that responsible investment is a reality in Latin America, but that we have a lot of work to do in coming years to have more and more investors applying these kind of principles in their investment process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. So now I'm going to present Andrea Pradilla from Global Report Initiative. Thank you, Andrea. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for the invitation. If at some point my connection is not working, please do let me know. I wanted to, as others, first thank all of you for this invitation. And I want to really say congratulations to the students that have made it this far. I have been advocating for sustainability for 15 years. And one of the arguments I always use is younger generations are pushing for this. And it's finally happening. So it's really encouraging to see the work you're doing. As Eduardo briefly mentioned, I actually represent the production of information side of things. And today I'm going to be providing a little bit of information on the reporting landscape, the sustainability reporting landscape. I want to make sure that you are able to see my screen at this point. Yes? If not, let me know. But the main thing is to be able to understand who are the actors in the sustainability reporting landscape. You at first have the report issuers, which are the companies, the listed companies in the region, or in general, organizations, family-owned companies, small, medium enterprises that are issuing information. And in order to do that, they get into the standards and frameworks. And as you go down our own supply chain, if you wish, or our own ecosystem, you get to data aggregators such as Bloomberg or Refinitiv, which we just heard about. And then you get to analyst and rating agencies like Dow Jones Sustainability Index or MSCI. And they process that information that companies report using the standards, and then that gets used by the investment community. So as you get to see, there's a whole process here in which information travels from one side to the other. And as we get down, let me just go to the next slide. I'm not sure. Yes. This is what ESG or sustainability information frameworks and standards look like, and how that compares to financial information. When we think of financial information, we tend to think it's very much unified, but that hasn't always been the case. It's been about 100 years since financial reporting became mandatory. It used to be, believe it or not, a good practice done by a few companies. When we take that into ESG data and sustainability reporting, as Eduardo mentioned, it's still a good practice. It's still in many countries voluntary. And in that regard, we're still lacking good ESG and sustainability data. In order to produce that data, what you have in terms of environmental, social, and governance is you have frameworks and you have standards. And you have some organizations that have both. In reality, you only have two standards with a good uptake in terms of numbers, which are GRI and CDP. The Carbon Disclosure Project, however, gathers data more on a questionnaire sort of way on environmental matters, and SASB introduced its standards in November 2018, while investor focused from the US market, it still has a limited use. And then you have three really interesting frameworks, which are the integrated reporting framework, the CDSB, and the new one, TCFD, that's very promising. And I would say it's kind of like the new kid on the block that everyone is talking about. And it really gives a sense of how investors are approaching the issue of climate. I wanted to just bring this not to scare you, but to give you a little bit of context in terms of where the discussion is at the moment. And then I'll focus a little bit more on the GRI standards, which are the most widely used in the world, but also in our region, and are a comprehensive set of global standards. And what we try to do is to help companies first identify and then communicate their impacts on the economy, society, and the environment. And we develop those standards through a multi-stakeholder process that's rooted in the public interest and that has the objective of really helping companies and other stakeholders. Many investors are interested in understanding which issues the company believes are financially material, meaning they contribute to value creation in terms of the company, and why. And this is made possible with GRI reporting. Having said that, boards have a fiduciary duty with regards to sustainability, but it's kind of a new duty for them. You know, it's been kind of an evolution, and at first, at least in Latin America, it was just perceived as something that one department was doing, sometimes linked to comms, sometimes links to PR. That's changing. However, the extent to which boards in LATAM are ready to carry out this duty is, in my view, and Jorge knows more about this, questionable. A joint survey conducted by GRI, A.T. Kearney with support from MIT back in 2016 showed that board members in LATAM lack the expertise to direct sustainability and ESG, and management teams are a lot more knowledgeable. Most of the board members in LATAM, we interviewed 550 of them, know about strategy and finance. And very few of them claim to know something about sustainability. So that has kind of led boards to become more of like spectators when it comes to sustainability, and that's quite dangerous. If you think of fiduciary duties, they seem to be aware. In our research, we found that they are aware this is their duty. They wish they can fulfill their duty. They think they could do it well, but they're not ready to do it. So we think that's in the last 2 years, and I want to recognize the work done by Eduardo. The topic has really come up on the agenda, and it's becoming more top of mind for boards, but there is still a long way to go for the board of directors to really exercise that fiduciary duty of directing sustainability and ESG matters in Latin American companies. The GRI standards, however, do require reporting on governance over and management of sustainability topics. And this type of information tends to be narrative and qualitative. It's invaluable for providing contextual nuance and performance information. It cannot be expressed in numbers. So I feel like the investor community has a learning curve in there as well. An important and final message that I want to convey is also the role of investors in the impacts. Responsible investment encompasses not only the inclusion of ESG criteria, because it will affect your ability to create value in the long term, but there is also a core responsibility of investment decisions regarding the impacts generated by the companies they invest in, especially in this region and especially after this pandemic. Investors are indirectly responsible for these impacts, and therefore having access to information on the impacts of companies is essential and crucial for their own sustainable and responsible management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for those inspiring words. So now I'm going to let Aldo Ferrini share with us his ideas about sustainability. Go ahead, Aldo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan Antonio. Thank you, USIL, for the invitation, and congratulations on this challenge to all of the universities involved and the students that have participated in this challenge. Pretty much, I fully agree with what has been said by the previous panelists. So to avoid being repetitive, I'm going to change what I was going to say to speak from the perspective of the investor. So I will take my hat of chairman of the peer to use the hat of CEO of Integra, which is a private pension fund in Peru, and why we do believe as investors that incorporating ESG in our due diligence process to allocate the money we manage for our clients is really important for the long run. There was a question in the questionnaire you sent, Juan Antonio, regarding or mentioning that ESG is relevant for identifying risks, and how can we make ESG relevant for profitability. And I think it's the same thing. I think one of the main differences from an ESG perspective due diligence from the cash flow perspective is the term where we are looking for. Sustainability is long run, is really trying to predict that the cash flows that the company or that the investment you're going to make are really sustainable, and you can really make good predictions and investments in the long run. So the risks that we identify using ESG criteria are in general terms risks that we were not analyzing 10 years ago, 15 years ago. In Latin America, as most of you have mentioned, this is more recent. We've been doing or trying to do ESG almost in Integra almost 5-6 years ago, maybe more, but only on the G, because there was zero information on social and government issues. You only knew of social and environmental issues, when there was a spill or there was a community that was not letting a mining company really explore a mine. So you learn about the risks when they were there and you were not able to do anything about that. But we've been very active on the governance, and we've been doing a lot in analyzing the governance and trying to quantify what's the impact of governance in returns. So I think that, I mean, ESG and sustainability is here to stay. I don't believe this is a fashion. I don't believe it's going to 5 years from now or 10 years from now go back to saying, okay, now we just need to generate cash flows and who cares about the environment. And this is not because investors or companies are looking as an important thing. It's because society and customers are really putting value on companies that really take care of different objectives or purpose that only net income. There, as Andrea mentioned and most of you mentioned, data is one of the biggest issues. The data we have today on ESG in Latin American companies is very poor, and the data we have, and also Bloomberg is a great source of data, is very helpful. But in order to analyze it or to use it, we need to, as investors, to really deep dive on how you read the data. In analyzing one of the companies that was part of the challenge, I saw that, for example, the percentage of unionized employers is the higher the percentage, the higher the points on the ranking. But we need to understand what's the importance of unions in different countries and why there's an increase in unions. It may be because the company really incentivized, which is really good, or it is because the company has done several things wrong, so the reaction is to unionize. And in order to analyze why, what's the source of the increase, is important in order to understand if the company is doing ESG. Another important thing is that in ESG, it's not enough that you are good on E or S or G. You need to be good in the three variables. If you have great corporate governance but weak social practices, it's a high risk for long-term sustainability, and the same with everything. A lot of companies that have been receiving a lot of cash flows or investments, especially on the environmental area, have very weak corporate governance. And I believe that in the long run, even though it's fashionable now to invest only in environmental, to see that investment is really a long-term investment, sustainable investment, you need also to put pressure on corporate governance. And the other thing we do a lot, especially on our Peruvian investments, and that's because the size we have here in Peru, is activism. We've become very active in corporate governance. I think one of the companies in this challenge has been a Peruvian cement company, UNACEM, that this year was awarded with the highest increase in corporate governance in the Lima Stock Exchange, Voz del Mercado. This company 2-3 years ago was one of the weakest in corporate governance because several things. We entered in a very strong and constructive discussion with them, make important changes, and now we see the results. But having said that, even though the company is now in improving a lot in governance, the stock performance has not yet increased substantially. But we don't care, because we really believe this is a long-term investment, and we believe that these changes will be profitable to our clients in the long run. So one of the most important things on ESG is to change the short-term view that we have, or that Wall Street or markets used to have, to long-term views. And as investors, we need to be consistent also, and stop giving that much weight to quarterly reporting on companies, and start looking more on the long-term strategies, long-term investments, and long-term changes that they really want to do in order to become sustainable. So that was what I wanted to comment. Again, congratulations to all of the participants in the challenge. I believe this is it's very important to have this in mind, and to really live this kind of changes that, as I mentioned before, are here to stay. Thank you, Juan Antonio.
Thank you very much for these insights that are very important to generate consciousness in our mindset about how important is our actions involved in other people and society. So we have to be responsible and resilient. Now we have a summary from our three colleagues from Bloomberg Labs in 3 universities. So I'm going to start with the first insight that is very important to share. And it is about, from the experts, we learned that some of the best practices that could be incorporated into proxy statements for LATAM companies are: first, features disclosures more prominently in the statements. Second, companies should use proxies to tell their strategic ESG story, which should be investors get a clearer picture of long-term value. And in here, companies should tell their story, starting by making a clear statement of their commitment to pay attention to ESG issues, with an explanation of the goals and progress made towards those goals. This progress is being increasingly presented statistically and based around materiality considerations. Finally, the scale of the global health crisis has made the S in ESG stand out now more than ever. It is no longer a question of being limited to the simple creation of value, but of looking at the way in which this value is created. So now is going to share the next insight, William Zuluaga from UEAN, responsible for FinLab Green's Finance Observatory, researcher at the Finance Postgraduate Programs, director at UEAN Colombia.
Thank you very much, Juan. Thank you very much, everyone being here tonight. As Inigo, Jorge, and Aldo said, ESG is a long-term game from the top to bottom, and it's not a fashion. Also, Andrea and Eduardo said that for board members, it's dangerous to be a spectator when it comes to ESG fiduciary responsibilities. I think that message is very important to have in terms of what the experts have said. From the perspective that Juan Antonio was saying, when you think about profitability and risk, from the experts, we have learned that companies should grow their revenue base using a strong ESG proposition. For example, your top line revenue growth should be done by attracting customers with more sustainable products and better access to community and government relations. If you're a trust factor like Tesla, Zoom, yes, different companies, that intangible economy lead to greater growth there in the top line of your P&L. Yes. A second thought that was very interesting regarding the experts is that a strong ESG proposition leads to cost reductions. Yes, if you have energy savings, you can reduce your cost reductions, and your cost reduction will be better for your P&L as well. You can avoid regulatory fines, yes, and you can have a productivity uplift, and that will bring new talent to go in the company and to be attracted to belong to a company that has increased social credibility, yes. Finally, the experts were saying something that is very interesting, that is, you can optimize investments by avoiding those that may not have a good, well payout, yes, because in the long term, environmental issues may arise. So you are trying to avoid that, but as Eduardo was saying, you are trying to not have a negative, like avoiding investment, yes, to not try to avoid investment, but better, or rather to incorporate ESG criteria when you're making decisions in terms of investment. So that for me will be the resume. Thank you very much. I will have the word for Karina, my colleague from UADE.
Bueno, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por haber compartido este panel a los invitados. Bueno, lo que podemos arribar como conclusión, y justamente la parte que nos atañe a todos los que estamos acá, que es la educativa. De los expertos podemos aprender que es clarísimo que las universidades tienen un papel clave que desempeñar en la formación de las próximas generaciones de profesionales. Paula, ¿querés acompañarme para nuestros invitados? ¿No?
Okay, can you hear?
Ah, está. Ah, no, gracias.
Okay, good. So I'm going to translate Karina. I'm going to tell you what she says. So Karina is going to talk from the educational point of view. Yes, Karina, go
Bien.
ahead.
Perfecto. Bueno, estaba comentando que es fundamental el rol de la universidad en la formación para las futuras generaciones.
Okay, so the role of the university in the education of the next generations is key.
Es clave también incorporar materiales de estudio relativos a ESG en cada uno de los cursos de las universidades.
Okay, it is also key to add in the curriculum and in the contents of each of the courses in our universities, contents related to ESG.
Cuando pensamos desde la perspectiva del inversor, vemos que ellos van a estar buscando dos cosas fundamentales. Por un lado, la confianza y el profesionalismo.
So when we think from the investor's point of view, we know that there are two things that they're going to look for, which is confidence and professionalism.
Para abordar la credibilidad es necesario contar con título universitario y certificaciones que sean relevantes para este nuevo marco que estamos conversando.
So in order to show credibility, professionals will have to show their diplomas, but also certifications, especially related to the topic we're talking about.
Bien. Y en cuanto a la segunda cuestión, el profesionalismo, esto debe ser algo clave también que muestre el compromiso de esta futura generación profesional con los valores que el cliente vaya a apreciar.
And the second element is shown in the commitment that the professional will have to the values that the customers want to look for.
Bien. En definitiva, lo que la universidad tiene que lograr es potenciar el talento de todos los estudiantes, y este sentido tiene que ser un propósito fundamental en una agenda que no tiene que postergarse.
Okay, so the main purpose is to help students get these two main aspects, and it is something that the universities must do in their agenda.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Paula. Bueno,
Gracias.
Ahora estamos arribando ya al cierre de este evento y vamos a dar lugar a las autoridades de las 3 universidades para que hagan los reconocimientos muy bien merecidos para nuestros estudiantes, que son, digamos, los impulsores de este lindo evento. Comenzamos con la autoridad de Perú, si les parece. Ciro Bazán.
Okay, I'm going to represent Dean. He apologized because he's an academic issue right now. But previously, I want to talk about how the process of this challenge worked. And it was about analyze ESG indicators with Bloomberg Terminal. And the same function from Bloomberg that Lisette showed us before is about to analyze with data and with criterion to give an opinion of as like a member of a board. So that's why the proxy voting was so important in the first question, okay? And the other issue important is about how to be compared with a benchmark that is CEMEX, and how we choose the companies. The companies was chosen by a criterion of the capital market, market capitalization. The companies that report the most variety of ESG indicators and have an important participation on the market, okay? So we have this information from Bloomberg, and this is a way to promote students to use technology for their analysis. So we have a guide, a case study we developed with the students about these 3 companies from 3 countries, and then every team, each student is a winner because they were chosen from thousands of students. So we were very proud about them. So everybody is a winner. And this is the criteria. And then I want to congratulate and thanks to the jury, that were 7 juries. And I want to congratulate in the first place to Giuseppe, Silvia Aliaga, Fernando Fretes, Keisha Huerta, and Juan Carlos Terrones. That is a hard work, was excellent. The experience and the juries were very happy about to check this, to review this project. And then in the second place, we have Caterina Costa, Lucero Ramos, Ciro Mendoza, Miquel Pellicer, and Diego Ninaya. And in the third place, we have Daniel Palacios, Ana Rosales, Rosario Egas, Tabata Barraza, and Juan Willis. And I'm very happy to share with you that the 7 programs of USIL International that are in Paraguay, Miami, Entrepreneurs Institute, double degree with San Ignacio University in Miami, and undergraduate for adults with experience, and the postgraduate studies participate. And I believe it's the first time all programs work together in this collaborative experience. And I'm very proud and happy about that, to include everybody from different points of view, careers. That was amazing, and I'm very happy about that. So now I'm going to let the award to UADE.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you. It's an honor for the entire UADE community to have participated in this event, and that we promoted together with the USIL and EEUU universities. And we are proud to present our teams of students who have worked hard and achieved excellent scores. We have the first place in our university to team 3. I want to congratulate Francisco Montero, Sofía Pereira, and Héctor Valguarnera. Our second team was Victoria Gomez, Christopher González, Cristian Vargas, and our third team, Federico León, Diego Meneses, y Matías Fernández. Congratulations to you all. Thank you very much for the hard work and the commitment with the challenge.
Now, UEAN. Now I let the words for the representative of UEAN and to congratulate the students.
Sure. In this case, William was going to, I was giving the honors to William. I don't know if he's aware about this according to the plan. Your microphone is not working. Okay. Then in our case, we are very proud to say we had a very active team from our university, and we congratulate our students Sebastián Pedraza, Viviana Carvajal, and Juan Felipe Molano, who were having a very good score at the end compared also with the other team. And yes, that's it from Universidad de An.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank our jury, Nicolás Mesa from UADE, he evaluates USIL, Inigo Bengochea from CFA Institute, he evaluates USIL, Lisette Lara from Bloomberg, he evaluates USIL, then Aldo Ferrini from Programa, inversión, responsable, he evaluates UEAN, Colombia, Jorge Chandía from IFC, UEAN, Eduardo Teburtua for UADE, Alexander Riveros from UEAN, UADE, and Alex Barbosa from Honeywell in London, UADE. And this is very unusual because we have a lot of experts from different institutions that agree to help us and to participate in this collaborative experience. Now, I want to give the closing and thanks for everybody, because this is a change in the way we have our mindset put in these important issues about to be resilient, responsible, and to work together with different points of view, with a vision about the future, more with more equity, with more coherency about how we affect and how can we contribute to society. Okay, and I'm very happy to share this experience with mentors of UADE and UEAN that have made a great work helping me with their insights and recommendations. The vice presidencies, international vice presidency from three universities for belief in this project, and for the experts that believe in this supporting students and with the experience. I believe that in academy we learn from the storytelling and experiences from professionals, and we can link academy and market and government with this kind of initiatives that see to the future, a more resilient future and more sustainable future. So thank you very much. Thank you for everybody. We're going to continue with these initiatives and see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations to the winners. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Congrats.